to Join Our Town, a public affairs presentation of WBUY TV 40 and DTV 41. I'm Tina Tilton, your host for the next 30 minutes. And as we all know, summer is steadily approaching, and with summer comes sports and comes swimming. So on today, we have with us Miss Bronwyn Stamps. She's the Community Wellness Director for the YMCA Memphis and the Mid-South to discuss sports safety. And later on in the program, we'll have Miss Lauren Biggs. She's the Program Director for the Rick Newber YMCA. But right now, welcome to the show, Ms. Stamps. I had to do the YMCA thing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, of course. But begin telling us about the mission of the YMCA.
The YMCA's mission is to put Christian principles into practice through programs that build healthy spirit, mind, and body for all. And we really focus on the for all. The YMCA is very family oriented, and there is something for every age to do, either as a family or individually.
Right. Wow. Okay, well, let's talk about sports safety then. Summer is just around the corner. How often does sports-related accidents happen?
Well, nationwide, over 1 million children are injured a year with sports-related activities. Now, half of those are solo activities: skating, biking, gymnastics, horseback riding, those sorts of things. The other half are sports-related, and of the other half, over 60% are those injuries happen during practice and not a game.
That's what I was thinking. What is the leading causes of sports accidents?
There's a big variety, but some of it is just not being prepared or not having the right equipment. Maybe the field's not prepared. Maybe the coaches aren't as well trained. So it could be several things involved there. You know,
it's kind of funny because we know accidents happen. It's just bound to happen. But earlier you mentioned skating, horseback riding. Those are, well, I guess sometimes some are sports, huh?
Right, definitely.
I'm thinking those sounds like hobbies.
Right, and that's how we think of them, but it's activity and it's exercise and a way to get a kid out and moving. And so, most of our skint knees happen while we're out skateboarding or, riding our bike or roller skating. So those get lumped into the same sports and injury category.
What are some ways that a parent can know if their child is mentally and physically ready for sports?
Well, sports in the sense of organized sports, listen to your child. If a child isn't interested in soccer, don't push them to be into soccer. If you have a really petite, child, then they may not be ready for a very competitive league, and they need to do something a little more recreational. The YMCA does recreational youth sports, so it's not competitive. Every kid plays. There's not tryouts. So it's a good way for a child to learn a sport and see if they're interested, if that's something they want to continue. It's not as long of a season. You don't have as many practice days. So it's a good way to introduce a sport and see if a child likes it. But, the rule of thumb is let them decide what they like and don't force them to do something they're not interested in.
How do you all encounter a child that has been forced to do a sport that they don't want to do or don't like?
Just try to encourage them. And with the YMCA, since every kid plays, then it's not the competitive nature. So we just need to encourage them just to go out there and have fun with it and not worry about being the best or worry if some kid's better than them. It's just about having fun and getting exercise.
Well, there was a sports-related death in 2008 due to the young man getting too hot and his coach wouldn't let him take a break. For coaches and parents that are watching right now, how important is it to allow a child to take a break and keep them hydrated?
It's important to make sure that your coach is aware of the children and what's going on. And hydration is one of the biggest things, especially here in Memphis. We have very hot and humid weather, and it's very, very easy to get overheated. A child can get overheated much easier than an adult, and a child's body doesn't cool and respond to cooling off as quick as an adult's body does. So it's even more important to make sure a kid is hydrating and taking periodic breaks, especially if it's hot and if it's several hours of a practice. They need to be drinking, lots and lots of water. Try to avoid the sugary drinks, not Cokes, not Kool-Aids, but water. If it's going to be a very long time, then they definitely need something that's going to have some electrolytes in it, like your Gatorades and Propels and that sort of thing. But you need to listen to the child. The child says, I'm not feeling good, I'm dizzy, I'm lightheaded, I'm really hot. Then listen to those cues, let them sit down, let them sip on some water, and then return to the game or practice when they're feeling better. Not to force them to do something that a child's going to tell you if they feel good or not feel good.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. Well, how can you tell, how does one know if they're not just fatigued, but that they're, dehydrated? How can you tell the difference? I know if you're outside playing ball, in the heat and in the sun, but you could still just be tired and fatigued. So how do you know if you're dehydrated as opposed to just fatigued?
A rule of thumb is if you're really thirsty, your body's already somewhat dehydrated.
Okay.
So if you notice a child is real, you give them some water and they're really taking it down,
Okay.
then that's a good sign. But they may listen to it, and you might have a few that, I don't feel good, I'm tired, and maybe they're just, wanting a little break.
Mm-hmm.
But rule of thumb is better safe than sorry. Let them take a little extra water break and get it in. It's sure not going to hurt.
Absolutely. Okay. What are some other safety tips parents and the youth should know when it comes to playing sports?
Well, the biggest one is make sure they have proper safety equipment. So depending on what sport they're playing, helmets, knee pads, mouth guards. You always want to protect the head. So a skint knee is going to heal pretty easily. A head injury could be a little more, of an emergency situation. So make sure they have protective gear. And with the helmet, you want to make sure that it's not fitting too snug, but in the same sense, it's not too loose. You don't want it to fly off at the point that the kid really, really needs it.
What are some of the most popular sports then that children tend to play?
The most popular, everything from basketball, soccer, football, baseball, the younger kids with t-ball, and some more and more getting into swim teams, which are good, and all those can be found at the YMCA.
Wow. What about the safest sport? What would you think is this? And this is just an opinionated question. What do you think is the safest sport?
An injury can happen anytime, So a lot of people say, well, you're in the water, so you don't have quite the impact that you would playing football and you're running into each other. So I don't think there's any really safe sport if you're trying to pick a sport for your kid. What's the least harmful, for my kid? There's injury opportunities in any sport, and that just kind of comes with learning the sport and getting conditioned for it.
We had a debate about this in high school. Is cheerleading a sport or is it not? I'm going to say yes.
Okay, I'm going to say yes because I cheered for the University of Memphis.
Did you?
I did, so I get to say yes. And actually, funny enough, there are actually more and more rules now and limitations put on cheerleaders. NCAA rules won't let cheerleaders do 3 high stunts, pyramids at basketball games, or one-armed stunts. So they're really bringing them down as far as what they can do because there has been, injuries involved.
Wow.
I was very fortunate and never had a bad fall, but I've seen a few.
Me either. I never had a bad fall either. And I was a cheerleader too.
And we don't get an off season.
No, we don't. See? So it is a
That's
sport.
right. It's a
All
sport.
right. It's official. Cheerleading is a sport. Well, since sports activities is a form of exercise, what are some exercise safety tips that people should follow?
The first and foremost, to warm up. You don't jump out there running, bolting on the field. I'm ready to go. We're excited, and that's what kids want to do, especially when they get to a game or practice. Let me just run out there and do my thing. Make sure you warm up, and it doesn't have to be complex warm-ups. Just walking a little bit, jumping jacks, and a trained coach should have the children doing some warm-ups. And even adults, if you're going to exercise or do sports, you need to warm up first. Just don't jump out there and have at it. Warm up, do a few stretches, loosen up, let that blood flow go into those muscles warm up so that they're prepared and ready for the extra activity.
What happens if you don't warm up? What happens to the body if you don't warm up?
If you don't warm up, your body has to adjust very, very quickly, and then that's when you're going to get some strained muscles or pulled muscles. You could even hurt a joint because the tendons and the ligaments aren't warmed up and not prepared for you to go full force. If you jump out of a car and you're cold and you start running, then you could end up with some strained muscles, and it could be some more intense injuries there as well.
I got to take a small break, and I'll be right back. Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you.
Bronwyn, Stamps Community Wellness Director for the YMCA of Memphis and the Mid-South. We'll be right back.